There's one thing that I've learned in my time of doing Sandy Bottom Homestead and doing the Backyard Gardens podcast and talking to a lot of different gardeners. There seems to be this opinion that there's a code to be cracked inside of your garden. And that can mean a lot of different things. That can mean, full-time production. That can mean plants that never go away, all that stuff. So I have looked for this code, and I can tell you that I have found my code, but we need to find your code. It can look like many different things. The common thread is, I want to have a full healthy garden. I don't want to treat. I want a lot of produce. I don't want to use fertilizer, all that stuff. And I mean, the cold, hard facts of the situation, simply, there is no code for that. You're going to have to do these tasks, and you're going to have to do the work to do it. So for that code, let's just throw that one out the window. That is not the Konami code here. So if we keep going down the line, we've kind of on this channel recently started broaching into the survival garden aspect of this, the prepper, whatever you want to call it. And there's totally different camps, right? So if you just want to garden, then you just garden. If you are a survivalist gardener, then there's a lot of different codes to be cracked, and one of them is this like perpetual harvest, right? This string for perpetual harvest, and it comes with planting a lot of different kinds of vegetables, a lot of different plants and stuff like that, harvesting off of, I would call your not so common plants, right? Vegetables, whatever, I don't know. But as far as that goes, there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. And for me, it's all about what I want to eat. I just don't like eating those weird ass vegetables. So, you can do that, but also don't forget there's many other ways we can do this and we can grow no matter where your area is. As far as like the common thread is like, I want to extend my harvest. I want to go further. I want to go beyond what is normally taught to us. And you can absolutely do that without doing anything crazy, weird in your garden or anything like that. I mean, we talk about the major tenets on this channel a lot: fertilizing, feeding, timing. Timing is everything. Timing is everything, and understanding how plants grow is everything as well. So it's kind of, it gets, it's tricky, because the code that I always wanted to crack, and hands down, I wanted to grow full-blown produce year-round. And I was very naive in the beginning, thinking that there was going to be a way that I could easily grow tomatoes year-round. I have since learned that that's not really the case, and I don't want to grow tomatoes year-round now that I've explored other options and I've done other designs and planting schedules in my garden and stuff like that. Everything seems to work out. So I bring you to this art because it is filling in finely. This is one that I really never thought I would grow in a garden. These are my black-eyed peas, and we are, in fact, you can see right there, we're starting to get some black-eyed peas, which is right on time. These are really late producers. They really like the heat. But I never expected to grow this. And this isn't a crazy different kind of vegetable, out of the box was a term I was looking for. It's a pretty standard. I live in the South. Black-eyed peas are pretty standard, and most people know about them for New Year's Day. You eat black-eyed peas for wealth and all that stuff, which I've been eating black-eyed peas New Year's Day my whole life, and I still ain't rich, so screw that little saying. But I enjoy them. They're a great source. And this was one step into cracking our code, which has evolved, which is basically getting produce in times of the year when there's typically nothing coming out. Now, spoiler alert, I kind of failed at that this year. I don't know. As I walk around and I look, I don't think I really made any improvements that I wanted to. We did get a full crop of corn, so there is that we can eat. So the goal was to harvest produce and have enough preserved. So in times when there wasn't a lot coming out of the garden, we were still enjoying a combination of fresh and preserved produce consistently. And typically this time of year, and then going into like February into March are the 2 times a year that get really tough, meaning we don't have a lot coming out. Just focus on this time of year. The positives we made were the corn did really good, so we did get extra corn. Problem is I don't eat a lot of corn, so there is that. Push comes to shove, I'd eat it. Another thing we did is we planted an extra okra this year. So we are in fact getting okra at this time. You can see my okra harvest for this morning. And yeah, I did leave my fancy thermometer out from the last video overnight. But this is, you know, part of it. It's not a lot, but we have some stockpiled in the house from it. So it does work. The other thing too is from this year to last year, our peppers are still producing. So that's really been our saving grace for this time of year. Our peppers are still producing, and they're producing very well at that. So you can see we've got peppers on the plants. The plants are looking really good. We are about to fertilize them again, and we're about to break it open when we start doing our sweet potato harvest here in a couple weeks. So there are some positives there. Now my plan was to go ahead and have another bed of squash, but I had since changed my mind because as I started looking at it, I was like, well, what's more important? Produce in the summer or produce in the winter? And I made the decision of produce in the winter. So the other thing that kind of messed us up was this bed over here. We went to go put in another round of corn. I just don't like the way it grew. You know, just from Jump Street, it didn't grow very well. So we're gonna skip that in the future. We're not gonna grow corn anymore, a second row planting of corn. Just don't care enough about it. And so hopefully this would open up another bed like this for something different that would help fill this gap. Really wanna get down and dirty and figure out what's gonna fill that gap appropriately. And that's my personal code. So cracking that code, as you say, there is no easy way. There is no perfect garden with no fertilizer, no pesticides of any sort, organic or non-organic. You know, no effort going into it. That's not gonna happen. I think you get out of your garden the effort that you put into your garden. So right now, I just did a crappy job. All these corns out because I'm gonna have to direct sow my rutabagas. My rutabagas that I planted, the seeds were like 4 or 5 years old. I think we found a limit on how long they'll last. I got really bad germination for the first time. So we've got some new seeds coming, but we will be putting, we're gonna direct sow the rutabagas, so we're gonna have to do that a little bit earlier. So I wanted to get this bed kind of straight, and getting those out was good, had to do it. But corn stumps they're ridiculous to get out. So whew, we got it beat though. But that's the code that you need to figure out, right? You need to get it going, and this is just the effort that we put in here is going to give us back, you know, the produce that we want. So if we would have left those corn stalks in there, the roots would have taken up space. Being that we're going to put a root crop back in this bed, then the roots would take up space. We wouldn't get as big a produce, so on and so forth. It's a constant job. Just constantly staying on top of it, doing little things here or there. You know, it doesn't take a long time, but just getting it so that you can manage it and then it can grow is gonna make a huge, huge difference. So, and then as far as anything else that comes into play, just understand, and I think it's just easier to talk about my personal like ultimate code that cracked. And that was a couple years ago when I really started planting everything way out of anything that I had ever read. And I sat down, I looked at my weather, I looked at my first and last frost dates, and I actually started to do the math, figure out when things need to go in the ground, and then get them into the ground at that appropriate time, along with a feeding schedule and a protection method. So different protections, low tunnels, shades, all that stuff we'll be talking about on here. That's when my garden completely changed to where we added, in that time frame, we added 4 months of growing to our garden, solid growing, about 2 months on one end and 2 months on the other end. So we would typically, before, we wouldn't plant anything until April. I was hell bent on last frost date. That was when I planted and everything went in the ground. And then years ago, we changed that and we said, no, no more. What sense did it make for me to put an okra plant that loves the heat in the garden at the same time that we're gonna put broccoli in the garden that loves the cool? How does that make any sense at all? Right? We know that broccoli is a cool season crop that's frost tolerant, so why not use that to our advantage? Why would we plant a tomato at the exact same time as our cabbage? It makes absolutely no sense. What that was doing is it was cutting down my grow by almost, I want to say 50%, but based on the way that you can rotate beds in and out and you can plant them in different ways, I would say that it cut our amount that we could grow down by about 70%. So you got to think, a tomato takes up 4 square feet. A cabbage takes up about 1.5 square foot. So when you put those together, if I put those in the same bed, you would be missing out. But if I don't put those tomatoes in, I can put more cabbages around at the earlier time. So now the way my garden looks in the spring is I will have, in the late winter, I will be planting. But when it's time to put in the tomatoes, everything else I had already planted is just about ready, if not coming out. So we start to time things around like that. I mean, look at the garden right now. Every bed that's empty came out when it was supposed to, and it's time to put something back in. We want a little bit of time. I don't want to have to rush to get things back in the ground. So I wanted a little bit of time in between to work it, to, identify any issues. I mean, we're sitting here with this bed right here that was really bad, weeded up. And the only thing that I see coming up now is buckwheat that had reseeded, which is okay. That's easy to pull up, no big deal. But everything else so far is good. We got a good rain last night, so everything is nice and saturated. This bed right here, it's ready to go. It's planned this way. We put this non-frost hardy crop in of second tomatoes to grow, and they will grow up until the frost. And we planned for that because we want this bed to rest afterwards. Same here, not here, same over here. We planned for this bed because we want to have our watermelons growing in here as long as possible, and then we can put our garlic in here at the last minute, no issues at all. We can put our onions in here at the same time, works out great. I just need to make sure, especially while everything is a little bit sparse, which is how this garden bed was designed, that we can come up and pull all these weeds out, which are chamber bitters. Thank y'all for telling me that, even though it doesn't really matter what it's called, but at least I can give it a name. So I'm not big on weed ID. I don't care, I just want it out. All right, now my question to you is, now that we know that there is no universal code to be cracked, I think it's a personal and it's a very subjective code about what you want in your garden. What is the gardening code that you want to crack in your garden? What is to you gonna be the ultimate level where you feel like you're unstoppable? What would it take for you to do that? For me, at this point, and it's liable to evolve, would be a continuous, within reason, harvesting of vegetables during low grow periods in my area. So mid to late summer, and then mid-winter to some extent. Now for me, it's a little bit different because I have the greenhouse, so I am factoring that into, which does extend me to another month at least. So I do have that option. But just still, even with the low tunnels and stuff, that's my code. And once I crack that code, guess what? There's another code to be cracked. I just got to figure it out. And when I do, don't worry, I'll bring it to you. But these are personal goals. And whatever it makes to feel, for you to feel like you've got it going on and you just are absolutely in love with it, let us know in the comments below, because I feel like that's really going to help with you making decisions in your garden moving forward. And it's just going to improve more and more and more. But we got to be realistic about what we want. Goodbye.